This is the Fort Osage Novice set, 2017, round 4. Question number 1. This poem was initially published in the collection Mountain Interval and was written to mock the indecision of fellow writer Edward Thomas, who was a walking companion of the author. The author of this poem was said to dislike how seriously most people have interpreted the poem. One line in the poem says, "Though as for that the passing there had warned them really about the same," while another claims that the speaker made his choice because it was grassy and wanted wear. For 10 points, name this poem in which the speaker, quote, took the one less traveled by, and it has made all the difference, unquote, by Robert Frost. And that would be The Road Not Taken. Number 2. This territory's leader was forced to sign the Bayonet Constitution in 1887, which stripped the monarchy of most of their power. A bilingual 1897 petition against annexation by native citizens from this territory was sent to Congress after being signed by more than half of them. The U.S. minister to this territory, John Stevens, used a contingent of Marines to dethrone the last queen of this territory, Queen Lilo Oconlani, in 1894. For 10 points, name this U.S. territory, now a state, which was annexed by the 1898 New Lands Resolution and has its capital at Honolulu. And the answer is Hawaii. Number 3. This number is Milk's value on the pH scale and is also the coefficient applied to oxygen, carbon dioxide, and water in the chemical equation for both photosynthesis and cellular respiration. This number is the number of carbon atoms in a benzene molecule and a glucose molecule, and is the number of naturally occurring noble gases. The P subshell can hold at most this number of electrons, and the synthetic element livermorium is thought to have this many electrons in its outer shell. For 10 points, give this number of electrons in the outer shell of selenium, sulfur, and oxygen. And the answer is 6. Number 4. This MLB franchise is the only team to finish a season with a winning record after 2 previous 100-loss seasons. This MLB franchise plays mostly night games at home between May and September due to extreme daytime temperatures in its area. The current CEO of this franchise, Nolan Ryan, is an all-time MLB leader in strikeouts and was known as the Express for his durability and the speed of his pitches. This team went to the World Series in 2010 and 2011, but lost both times to their National League opponents. For 10 points, name this MLB franchise based in Arlington, a Dallas, Texas suburb. And the answer is the Texas Rangers. Number 5. When this bridge was first proposed, the city it is located in was one of the largest in the U.S. that still relied on ferries for transport. Construction began on this bridge in 1933, and the designer had to build its southern end over the historic Fort Point. Construction of this project cost the lives of over 30 workers, and the unique color of this bridge was chosen because it would look the best in the fog that is common in this area. For 10 points, name this bridge spanning the namesake strait in Northern California, which links San Francisco to Marin County to the north. And the answer is the Golden Gate Bridge. Number 6. The lineage of these Greek deities is in dispute, as Hesiod claimed that they were the daughters of Nyx, while Plato claimed that they were the daughters of Ananke. Hesiod also claimed that these deities had power over all Greek gods, while others claimed that Zeus exercised some control over their judgment. One of these deities, Lexus, held a measuring rod to determine the thread of every person's life. For 10 points, name these white-robed Greek deities who held the thread of human destiny and could cut it whenever they wanted. And the answer is the Fates. Moira is also acceptable. Number 7. A small portion of this African nation's western Atlantic coast divides Angola from its exclave of Cabinda, while a southern portion of this nation's territory extends southward into Zambia. That southern portion of Katanga province is centered around the industrial city of Lubumbashi, which is the base of operations for this nation's copper mining industry. The eastern border of this nation lies along the Rift Valley and the Great Lakes region and was a battleground during the 2 civil wars experienced by this nation. For 10 points, name this Central African nation with capital at Kinshasa. And the answer is the Democratic Republic of the Congo. DRC is also acceptable, but Republic of Congo is not acceptable. Number 8. The membranes of this organelle were first observed using an electron microscope, and one variety of this organelle contains ribosomes, where protein synthesis occurs. The other variety of this organelle functions in lipid manufacture and the production of steroid hormones. This organelle is common in most eukaryotic cells, but not in red blood cells, and runs continuously along the outer nuclear membrane. For 10 points, name this organelle involved in the transport of cellular materials, which comes in the smooth and rough varieties. And the answer is endoplasmic reticulum. Number 9. The former prime minister of this nation, Rafik Hariri, was killed in a massive car bomb in 2005, and the case remains unsolved. A 15-year-long civil war in this Middle Eastern nation split it among religious lines, and a 1982 invasion by Israel resulted in 2/3 of this nation being occupied by that nation. This nation was once one of the most prosperous in the Middle East, but today a large portion of its population are refugees from the fighting in Syria. For 10 points, name this nation, site of the 2005 Cedar Revolution, in the aftermath of Hariri's death, with its capital at Beirut. And the answer is Lebanon. Number 10. A character from Mikhail Bulgakov's Master and Margarita is a demonic one of this animal, which has a penchant for chess and is named Behemoth. Haruki Murakami's The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle has one of these animals named Noboru Wataya, while in Romeo and Juliet, Tybalt is often referred to by Mercutio as the prince of this animal. The narrator of a short story by Edgar Allan Poe tries to kill one of these animals named Pluto, but fails. For 10 points, name this animal that names an Andrew Lloyd Webber musical and is on a hot tin roof in the title of a Tennessee Williams play. And the answer is cats. Number 11. This German-born composer gave his first formal performance in Vienna in 1795, but historians are unsure if it was his Piano Concerto No. 1 or No. 2. This composer once said, "Music is a higher revelation than philosophy," and studied with Joseph Haydn while in Vienna. This composer composed his six-string quartets between 1798 and 1800, but may have done his best work after he went totally deaf in 1814. For 10 points, name this German composer of the Moonlight Sonata, for Elise, and 9 symphonies. And the answer is Ludwig van Beethoven. Number 12. The founder of this mathematical theory was Georg Cantor, but his theory is inadequate for formal mathematics. Membership in one of these can be described as X is an element of B, although these are commonly denoted P. A Venn diagram can be considered one of these, and elements within these usually share some property. Cardinality is the number of members of one of these, and an empty one of these is denoted with a 0 and a slash through it. For 10 points, name these fundamental concepts of mathematics, members of which are enclosed in brackets. And the answer is sets. Number 13. An incumbent Republican House member from this state blamed his primary loss on House Speaker Paul Ryan and pushed for impeaching the head of the IRS. This state, represented by Tim Huelskamp, controversially lowered personal income taxes in 2012 under Governor Sam Brownback in an attempt to stimulate their economy. Many of this state's top earners, including prominent basketball coach Bill Self, have created limited liability corporations, or LLCs, to protect their earnings from taxation. For 10 points, name this state in which Self coaches at the flagship university in Lawrence. And the answer is Kansas. Number 14. One of these objects that fell in the Czech Republic in 1959 was the first to have its trajectory tracked by multiple cameras. So many of these objects are located in the empty quarter of Oman that the government has restricted recovery of them by hunters. One of these objects is thought to have created the Cumberland Gap in Kentucky, and the Alvarez hypothesis states that one of these objects may have led to the destruction of the dinosaurs. For 10 points, name these objects, which survive a fiery plummet through the Earth's atmosphere in order to create a bolide or crater on Earth. And the answer is meteorites. Meteors and asteroids are not acceptable answers, just meteorites. Number 15. This man started a newspaper called the Claiborne Herald, but his financial troubles and lack of help led to it ending in 1829. Juan Davis Bradburn threatened to shoot him if Texian troops attacked in the Anahuac disturbances. During the Texas Revolution, this man wrote an open letter entitled, quote, "To the people of Texas and all Americans in the world," unquote, in the hopes of attracting Americans to the Texian cause. But they arrived too late to help in the battle for which he is best known. For 10 points, name this man who died while commanding alongside Jim Bowie and Davy Crockett at the Alamo. The answer is Lieutenant Colonel William Barrett Travis. Number 16. This landmass is believed to be one of the last settled by humans, with native populations arriving in the 13th or 14th centuries. Early European mapmakers often depicted this landmass as consisting of 3 islands, and its isolation contributed to its biodiversity. Due to the lack of natural predatory mammals, this island group developed numerous species of flightless birds, such as the now extinct moa. For 10 points, name this island group, officially consisting of a North and South Island, whose national symbol is the flightless kiwi, and whose capital is at Wellington. And the answer is New Zealand. Number 17. This novel's author claimed that he intended to pose a philosophical question, quote, "Is there a direction and meaning in lives beyond free will?" unquote. This novel's protagonist, Brother Juniper, witnesses the destruction of the title structure and over the next 6 years attempts to piece together the stories of the lives of the victims. One victim of this novel's event, Pepita, described her loneliness in a letter that she later tore up after being questioned by her employer and fellow victim, Donna Maria. For 10 points, name this Pulitzer Prize-winning novel set in Peru about the collapse of the title structure, written by Thornton Wilder. And the answer is The Bridge of San Luis Rey. Number 18. References to this man appear in the Mishnah, Talmud, Quran, and the Biblical Old Testament. The book of Malachi states that this man's return to earth will come before the, quote, great and terrible day of Yahweh. This man encounters a widow in Zarephath while hiding from Ahab, and she gives him the last of her bread and water. Later, he raises the widow's son from the dead and appears with Moses in the sky during the transfiguration of Jesus. For 10 points, name this prophet, who also brought fire down from the sky in his quest to end the worship of Baal and rose to heaven on a whirlwind. And the answer is Elijah. Elias is also acceptable, but not Elisha. Number 19. These groups were first established in the Middle Ages. These groups were first established in the Middle Ages England to replace trial by combat. In Shepard versus Maxwell, the Supreme Court ruled that publicity surrounding the accused was so intense that it tainted the pool for this group and made a fair trial impossible. Later Supreme Court cases have established that pools for these types of groups cannot be limited by race or gender, and a voir dire is used to question members of these groups. For 10 points, name this group, which is usually between 12 and 23 members, which sits in a court and hears cases to decide guilt or innocence. And the answer is jury, or juries. Number 20. A monument titled Spirit of this City was the largest bronze statue cast since the European Renaissance and is located at the Coleman Young Municipal Center. The namesake river flowing through this city contains Belle Isle Park, and large portions of this city's housing has been abandoned. The use of urban parks for cropland has been proposed in areas where housing has been demolished, such as the Hants Woodlands. For 10 points, name this northeastern, formerly industrial city where the auto industry was once concentrated and the largest city in Michigan. And the answer is Detroit. Number 21. This is the last question of the packet. Number 21. This poet wrote his most famous collection while in Santiago, studying to become a French teacher. One of his poems ends, "Pilot's dread, fury of a blind driver, turbulent drunkenness of love, in you everything sank." While another one of his poems includes the lines, "She loved me sometimes, and I loved her too, and I no longer love her, that is certain, but how I loved her." That poem starts, "Tonight I can write the saddest lines," which is also its title. For 10 points, name this Chilean poet, winner of the 1971 Nobel Prize for Literature, known for his 20 love poems and A Song of Despair. And the answer is Pablo Neruda. And that concludes this packet, which again was round 4 of the Fort Osage Novice set.